Mhm. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Unreal Engine 5 game development live stream where we're back in our gas course project. I keep saying gas course project out of habit. It's our Deck Knight project, built from scratch using Unreal Engine 5, C++ blueprints, the gameplay ability system plugin, and all of that good stuff. So today, we're going to do a little bit of project clean up in terms of, like, I want to explore, because last time what we were doing, we were trying to explore in our deck manager component, and I believe it's in our player state. If the card representation should be done as just simple row entries to a specific data table, because it was also used as, like, you know, oh my god, the cat is making everything shake. All right, get in your cozy spot, boo boo. Because, like, just to show you the example, like in here, the deck manager component, here we have these data assets, right? And they represent the cards in your hand or the cards in your deck. And then these cards are literally just data entry rows. So I'm curious if I can get away with just using these handles. So, you know, it has a reference to the handle and the row names and everything like that. And if that's enough, if I can, like, serialize that, can I work with that structure and it's okay? It should probably be fine, I think, but then the issue then becomes references to what these rows are, because these rows are pretty much structs that have a reference to a card ability set, which then has hard references to gameplay abilities that are then kind of loaded in. So this one data table, for example, has so far this many references. It may not seem like a lot, but if we go into the size map, it's already 167 megabytes on disk, and then in memory, it's 328. So essentially, whenever I load this, like, pretty much I'm loading all the abilities when they're kind of loaded in to this component. So if I look at the size map of this, it's also 328, right? And it's all because of this data table, right? Because we get all the way here, and then we get right to the dodge, and then we have a character. Then we're pulling in our elf male character then, and all that stuff. So it seems like there's some space to be saved in that sense, where we should only really load an ability on a card once the card is kind of granted. And I'm curious how fast that can be and if that's going to cause any problems. So I want to work on that, but additionally, I want to just revisit my input mapping contest, because I did find a bug. Because last time what I was doing, let me go to the root character here. So it's here. I was doing it untriggered, where I was getting the controller enhanced input and adding the mapping context. And because the ability cord was on down, it was getting triggered every frame while I was down. So I was stacking and adding a bunch of mapping contexts. And so when I was trying to just press a corded action for the ability, it was activating it through all those mapping contexts and not just one. So I had to move that logic into triggered. And I want to also nativize that into code, into the base class, I think. Struct, maybe? And then we could just load the data asset on, setup input or something. Still, we'll need to, pass along the player input, so we have like the enhanced input and everything. So maybe we could try it that way. Do we have like an input section? I think we do, right? Yeah. So let's try it, and we'll see what happens. So add Unreal class. It's just going to be a data asset. View data asset, right? I'm going to say VASC underscore. Let's see, ability recorded data, or input ability recorded. Now I have to move the .h down here. Like this. Like that, and so now I needed to kind of just have I guess like a dormant place for it, or literally just pull from this data asset, I guess, right? So this data asset's gonna have what? A couple of variables, I presume. So we need to have, like all you pretty, edit anywhere, blueprint, only, category, that. And then you input action. Ability board action. So that's like a null. That's one. Next is going to be the input mapping context. The U input mapping context. So that, then I need a priority, so the priority, say 1 by default. It also needs a U property. And we need this struct, right? So what is it? Modify context option structure. Came here after finishing Expedition 33 video. What'd you think? Some of the stuff was pretty useful, I think. It's kind of, you know, some of the highlights, you know, it's funny that they use Discord for communication. That's kind of wild. And they only had like 4 main programmers in-house, and then I think 4 from the publisher towards the end. But all the designers are technical designers. I think, you know, if you're working with Unreal Engine, if you're a designer, you kind of have to be a technical designer too. I feel like that might be with every engine, but I don't know. Like, I rarely have ever seen just a designer who just does paper design or manages spreadsheets. They're always implementing stuff as well. So what are we looking for? What's this thing called? Modify context options struct. I hope that's enough. I'll just store all of that, and then inside the player character, we'll make a function. Well, we also need a U property, right? So that's all my kind of component stuff and function stuff. Just set it up here. T array, it's going to be of type and then we need a function. Void y forwarded. I guess it needs seems fine. Regenerate. Then yeah, in here we're going to Do the same thing. That. Then we say if ability core data, then we would do something similar here. So bind action by tag. Maybe able to just, I don't know if I need to do like just a set of lambdas, which I always kind of forget the syntax for, but I should be able to say bind. Is it bind input action or just bind action? So yeah, bind instance lambda, probably. So I do this in the input buffering state tree component, right? Not state tree component, state tree task. Input listeners, I think I have this kind of stuff. So bind action lambda. So hopefully I can reuse this. Probably not. I think the best decision they made was designing a game that doesn't require too much technical knowledge. Well, I mean, I guess they were smart about the fact that they were, you know, not all of them, but, you know, I guess they were mostly new to Unreal. So, you know, sometimes the best games come from the best, like, the most limitations. Because sometimes you could just develop yourself into a hole and never get out of it. So best to know your strengths and weaknesses ahead of time, I guess. So it needs function. So it needs input action. All this. The next one, yeah, say E trigger and started. That's right at all. Remember, inaccessible. Oh, do I have to make this public? I think I also have to include that might not be necessary. Do I have that information in here? I suck at lambdas so much, I don't know what I'm doing. Let's just see if it'll work. So now I should be able to can I do a context? Shit. I need to remember the syntax here. What does it need? Is there anything online? Yeah, okay. So I need the subsystem. Hopefully write that. I do get... There's no real way. Okay, so I have to get the local player from the player. Okay, so probably I can say... Hey, player controller. That. Force rapid F. Again. Pass that along. Assume that's gonna be okay. I need to give it player. Now I should be able to tell it to bind. Unless I could just pass in the input system, I guess. Hey, Pandemic, sorry I was on and off lurking at the beginning. Why the table resolves in hard referencing all card abilities and how do you solve references? Well, we'll figure that out later, but yeah, so right now, like all the properties are hard references to the ability classes, so like the ability CDOs. And so what I want to do is turn those into soft references so that they're not loaded at like editor time when the table's loaded, the player cards table. So when the card is granted into your hand, or we can figure out if you have the card in your deck, we'll load the abilities. We'll see which one makes the most sense. But I just want to avoid having one place that has all the cards loaded into memory at the same time, just because that might slow things down. So I'd rather just load things when I need them, and that's usually when the card is granted. I could be overthinking it as well, but that's the current thinking. But right now we're updating some logic here with the input system here to let us bind and unbind to listening to the ability core trigger so that we can add a mapping context in here. So I think to me, maybe even one more layer of if, then passing input system. And then we say what? Input system. Add mapping context. It's like we might. Oh, let me see. Is there more? Oh, there you go. Hi, Devin. Is it possible to create a parent gameplay effect for ability cost that always applies a different gameplay effect, GE stamina regen block, to the owner? Is it better to do this using C++ or Blueprints? I want to pause my stamina regen effect for 1 second each time when an ability with stamina costs is exuded. Yeah, that should be pretty straightforward. Let me just read it again. Hi, Devin. Is it possible to create a parent gameplay effect for ability cost that always applies a different gameplay effect? I want to pause my stamina regen for 1 second each time when an ability with stamina costs is executed. Well, what you could probably do is, like, if you have a general stamina regeneration, and then you have a GE_stamina regen block to the owner, so create a parent gameplay effect for ability costs that always applies a different gameplay effect. Like, so you're saying you would have a general ability costs gameplay effect, and in that parent you'd want to apply an additional gameplay effect for blocking stamina regen, and then derive children from that parent ability costs per ability? I just want to make sure I understand that. And the short answer about C++ or blueprints is enough for that. I don't think you really need to dive into C++ for that. And mapping context, I should have the last parameter, right? It's a const. Does that have to be the same type, I wonder? Out. So I also would probably want to do a... And yes, exactly, because each ability costs a different amount of stamina, and I don't want to manually add every time each... yeah, that should be doable, and that makes sense. I'm gonna... I'll need to compile... So I can get back into the editor. Okay, so const properties are not supported. I don't know if to say that. What's wrong here? So type uint there is not supported in Blueprint, so just in 32. Here. Oh. Let's try to compile that. So what you could do is make that parent, like you could make the gameplay effect class in C++ if you really wanted to. And in the constructor, add the appropriate component and add the appropriate gameplay effect parent to it. But if you're going to do that in code, then like the stamina regen, the block stamina regen gameplay effect classes also need to be seen in C++, so you can reference that one specifically. So it's going to be easier to just do it in blueprints and just track it that way. And it should be fairly straightforward. We can take a look together just to show an example of what that would look like. And then we'll jump back into our logic here. So we're binding it correctly, which is great, but I also want to make sure that it's not already applied, for the mapping context, but we'll take a look in a second. So for example, so say we have a gameplay effect. I understand that does make sense. You don't have to interrupt your work because we know this. Don't worry about it. Interrupting work is what I'm all about, right? So I'm saying we have GE ability cost. parent, right? And then you say in here, okay, the base class will always have a component for apply additional effects, right? So on application, copy data from original spec, on application, gameplay effects, right? So you could say, so I used to have stamina regen, so say stamina cost passive regen is the class that we have, right? So you would have that, and then, yeah, you would just right click, create child, and then you would see in here that it's already present, right? And so you should be able to treat each one as you see fit. Alternatively, and I don't remember where I saw this, because I did also implement this for my game, but then I moved away from stamina costs and stuff like that. But you really don't need to you really just need a parent ability cost, and then you can, in theory, just have like your modifier or your execution kind of handle the change from the ability. I don't know if I'm making sense here. So you find stamina cost. I thought I saw this online somewhere, and that's where I implemented it from as well. So yeah, so what you could do essentially is you could have a parameter in your gameplay ability, which I think I might still do in my gameplay abilities. Let's open up one. So you can have basically a section here, and I'll maybe make this a little bit bigger. I don't know if my camera is going to be interfering with what you're being able to see. I'll move myself down there. But I have this ability cost, which is F scalar float, and then a parameter for cost gameplay effect class. So you could just have one ability cost class that you then read this ability cost parameter for, and then you just do the cost expense yourself. So you would just have one parent, and you read the property here, so you don't have to make dozens of children of the parent gameplay effect for ability cost. You just make the parent, hook it into the base class of your abilities, supply it the cost, and things like that. And then you could make this like a data table reference instead, so you have the handles of the cost inside of a data table, so you could just make bulk changes there if you wish. But like I said, it's a curve table float thing, so you could just edit there. And I believe I might still have the code in here. So in gas course gameplay ability, I should have, is there a cost here? There's get ability cost. Check, there's apply cost, there's this apply cost. You should be able to potentially override, or I'm not sure exactly where it's handled anymore because I don't really use it. And there's check cost and everything. So I think I have, I guess I can just look. Oh my God, my cat is so confident jumping down. Oh my God. No, hold on. Okay. So let's look, because in the ability, we have get ability cost. So let's just see where we're getting that referenced here. So we have this magnitude, so base magnitude implementation here. So essentially what happens is, like, the cost, like ability cost is a custom parameter. And then the ability cost is custom. The cost gameplay effect class isn't. That's a default thing. So what you can do is in that cost. So I think I have some gameplay effects for cost, right? Yeah, so GE ability cost main, right? And it takes in the modifier for current stamina, and the magnifying type is custom calculation class, and the calculation class is this one in C++, so the MMC ability cost, which it then takes, I guess, a reference to the gameplay ability because you pass it in through the gameplay spec and everything like that. And then from that ability, you have to cast it to your custom ability class. You can get that cost level at that value level and return that value. So that number would then be multiplied by -1 as a subtraction, because we're adding it to the base thing. You could also do a set by caller. Give me a second. Yeah, guys, sneeze. You could do a set by caller, but custom calculation class could be more useful because, for example, you could introduce other checks in this modifier class. You could pull, or you could make it an execution class so you can pull in other modifiers to it. So you could say, this is your ability cost or stamina, but then you also take into consideration attributes for like global stamina, like reduction costs and stuff like that. So say your character has a perk or something that says all stamina costs are reduced by half for 5 seconds. You can read that attribute into the magnitude calculation and just do the math there. That'll probably be the best way to go. That's how I was going to do it, but I moved away from stamina costs for abilities or any kind of cost for... There's still going to be costs, but it's going to be through the cards that you're playing and the energy you need to do to play those cards. It's not really stamina per se, but it's a similar idea, just on a different layer, not within the abilities themselves. Yeah, you can... Let me find this stuff for you. The project is open source if you want to check it out. I also recommend Tranec documentation if you're not familiar. He explains everything super duper well. Hopefully that'll get you where you need to be. So let's go to Elf Mail. I guess it's going to be in the base character where we might want to do this. I don't know if I have a new blueprint. Can we delete that one? And I do have an input here. So input actions, context, modifiers. I'm going to say data. Now I'm going to make a new data asset of type ability chord. Should be able to put into information here. So this seems kosher to me. So I should be able to add this to our character base. There should be this input thing. So import ported, right? Bam. That's in. And now I should be able to, instead of doing this, like I'll see if the started works. So I'll disconnect that for now and leave it removed here. So we should be able to put a reference to input mapping there, and then ability chord here. And then the values we put is just, we could put force immediately and ability priority like that. So in theory, that should work. We can test. Do I still have the... Yeah, we have ability 1 holo, right? So if I do right bumper, we'll see if the game crashes. So far, no. And yeah, we get the holo. So that's good. So it seems like it's working. So yeah, now we can just add additional code in. Let's clear some of this stuff out that we don't need. But yeah, we want to do some checks here. We might want to say, hey, if we, as long as we have a valid thing here, yeah, we'll have to also do like a is valid check here. Because my assumption is, for example, if I were to make this cord empty, I assume a crash will happen or an ensure will happen. So I'm going to press right bumper. Okay, nothing happened. So I guess it's safe resolves. That's nice. But just to be safe, we'll just make sure that we capture that. So we might do that too. So if it's called ability, called data. Like it's a lot of encapsulated ifs and stuff. So I don't know if I'm a fan of doing that, but I could always just kind of do the opposite, right? Yo, what's going on, brother? Would you be interested in helping develop a new project? Definitely interested in working with you. I appreciate it, but I got busy. I'm busy with life. I'm busy with this project, but you could definitely feel free to join our Discord if you want to reach out for help. Maybe there's other devs out there in the Discord. We don't have that much going on in the Discord server, but maybe there'll be people interested there. So if not ability cord, we can just return. Then I could say, like, it'll be a lot of early outs, I guess. Because yeah, I think it might say, oh, that's a typo in wording. But one, no, okay. So it should be able to now pass in forwarded action and just say, I can just say this, right? That should be okay. And I should be able to just back this stuff up. Do I have one too many? I'm in the Discord. I'm looking to invest and create something reflecting the early 2000s. I mean, go for it, man. I'll be there to help, but I can't guarantee that I will always be available. I can't guarantee that, like, I can't dedicate myself to that project, so I don't want to make any false promises or anything like that. You know what I mean? So we have one too many of these. That seems like okay. So if we say if ability cord, blah blah blah, and so there's that, and now I should be able to do a similar lambda. I hope. But now we want to do completed. I think that's valid. Completely understandable. Thank you for your transparency. I'll be in the content through Discord. Yeah, sure. No worries, no worries. It's usually better to be honest. But I wish you the best. So let's do one more. We'll handle the canceled, right? So that should be okay. I'm just gonna run this through ChatGPT to see if there's anything glaringly wrong with this. It's mostly good. There's 3 problems to fix. You're capturing this and input system and lens that can outlive the moment. Okay. It does suggest a pretty decent refactor there, so let me grab it. Okay, still works. It creates a context. Checks to see if weak this is the player character is valid or not. Then it gets a subsystem. Checks if it's all Gucci. Then if subsystem has mapping context, remove. Okay. Okay, so it creates that kind of context. Then we do a binding. And then, we bind instantly for these two. But where's the bind for... there. Here's the started. Okay. Okay. Let's see if that works. So let's disconnect all of that. I don't remember if I changed anything in the header here, so I'm just gonna do a recompile. So, or don't double the bind this function. Also, I'm recommending about making sure we don't bind too many times. Guarding against double binding. And then ensure the map of context is removed on teardown. But when the player dies on possesses level changes while holding the cord, it won't necessarily fire. Okay, so we just gotta make sure we tear it down appropriately, which I guess makes sense. So function move ability. Oh no, it's not in that piece here. Does it recommend to take anything? Something like that. Cool. And so now do we have an end play already in here? No. So we need to grab that, I think. We should need the unpossessed, I guess. Right. Remove. Oh. And yeah, it also recommends that I track if it's already been bound. So we can do that too. I guess there needs to be like a private section, right? Then we have, what do we have? What do we have? Setup input, right? But do it in here. That, and then true. And then, so we'd say, so if I think that will cover my bases. So let's see. And if it does, then we'll start looking at the soft references and how we can best handle that. Music's kind of hidden right now, though. And then probably after this stream, we will do a cook, make sure it packages correctly. I was watching this Unreal Engine video with the engineering director or chief engineering guy. I forget his name. And they were talking about the build size for Clair Obscur. And they said it was like 60 or like the lowest version was like 44 gigs or something. I forget if that was zipped or not zipped. Yeah, the 50 gigabyte, yeah. And I don't know. Mine is like 3, I think, right? Yeah. But then again, there's not much going on. And I'm sure I can strip that down even more. But I don't think it's things I need to be worrying about for a long time. So here's all the input stuff. So technically, this should work still. So I do that, and okay, so it doesn't work. So I do right bumper, and no, right? So do I get to my lambdas? So remove context is here, right? But not removed. I want my I want to get to here, right? Ideally. So if I do right bumper, we don't even get there. Did I even save my changes? So class defaults, input, I did. And then here, okay, the input action is not there. So, did. Now, okay, we get the breakpoint. Awesome. Oh no. Okay, we're okay. So right bumper and X, we get hello, right? I grant my card. Now this is me being a fireball. Yay, right? So we know that works. So we updated all of that. So awesome. So we can nuke that. Again, I don't know like if it being in the data assets really needed, but whatever. You know. Let's have AI generate the description here, or documentation, I should say. Okay. So now let's look. Bonjour, mes amis. Yeah, tomorrow I'm going to France too, funny enough. Going for the weekend. Hopefully people don't get annoyed by me trying to do a French accent. I'll try not to do a French accent first and foremost, but it might slip out. I don't know. Oh, nice. Where? I'm actually going to Nice. I'm actually going to Nice. Okay. So yeah, let's go back to the original problem here. We're going to stream for about maybe 20-25 more minutes here. The other problem we were facing is we have this data table for our cards. All right. And it's a size map issue. It's 329 megabytes because we have all these hard references to our abilities, our ability sets, I should say. And the ability sets themselves have hard references to gameplay abilities. So, like, to me, I don't know if it makes sense to make a soft reference to the ability set itself and then load the ability set, or just have soft references inside of the ability set and just handle the loading. You know what I mean? Because again, in our card hand, I think it's in the template here. You know, we're eventually getting here, right? Card data, to add that information, right? And the ability set is not really needed. So I'm wondering if a soft reference is enough there, and then the soft reference has hard references, I guess. Because yeah, we have this thing card hand, right? And then we do add card to hand, and I feel like add card to hand should be kind of what's responsible for, you know, these references, right? So again, card data. Where's the? Am I missing the? Yeah, I didn't even open it. Let's go to the player state real quick. Yeah, we have deck manager, so yeah, we have these active decks, which is just these data assets with these rows and stuff. So we get there, and then in the code, we go boop, 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 boop. And then we do new card, instantiate card data, which instantiate card data goes to here, right? So in theory, because again, this is just card data, right? Only when we activate the card that we actually do anything with the ability set. So I'm wondering where is the best place to kind of handle that. Um, what? Yeah, because we get to where? Whoops. Um, we get to card hand. We eventually call like activate card somewhere, right? Or is that also in blueprints? Current hand, right? So we get eventually to activate card, right? So we update card spacing and then we call activate card on the template, which doesn't seem to do anything. Do we not have like, so it's all blueprint implementable events. Let me put back the music here. So it calls activate card here, right? Well, and I guess it's in the ability set or the data asset that I'm doing this. Let me look. We have card and we have card data asset, which has this activate card. Where is this activate card? Is that anywhere? Because yeah, we get, when we activate the card, this is the card data asset. We go all the way through all of this nonsense to get the row name, and then we get all the way over here. Then we get to the card ability set, and we get to here, right? So it all comes back down to here, right? So we have this card ability set. It does all this, and we have all of this stuff, right? I feel like potentially even get the gameplay effects could potentially be problematic, but we can start with this being a soft class reference. We can make two versions just to keep things, keep things kosher. So edit defaults only, and then is it T soft class pointer, I guess? So we have that. And then I would probably want to because there's this T array of granted abilities, right? So I want to make, it's not going to be a public thing. I think it needs to also be maybe private. And say T array. So loaded abilities to grant. Then I would probably want to have a function because there's give to ability system and all this stuff. Void activate card. I want to do void load abilities to grant, I guess is fine, right? And in the ability set, we could say if There's T array of this, but then yeah, I think no, so it's gonna be in here, right? So if so then 4 type here. So 4. This is granted, right? So I do that. Maybe that array is not necessary at the moment, but we'll just keep it. Now, can I say, like, I always remember again, syntax v5, C++, async, load, off, class. I need to get asset manager. Let's just bring them in. Load handle. I don't want to spawn anything. We'll see. So what can I say? F do this. That. I do this. Low variability is not captured. How am I not Oh, okay. Then I can do this, I think. I just do a cast, I guess. So this is just I guess this is be tier A. Does this have to be then a does it have to be casted if I do this? Seems okay. So basically here, there's the card data asset. There's activate card, is data invalid card. I'm trying to figure out. Function load abilities grant. Let's just see if that compiles and we'll go from there. It's essentially what we would need to do is in this gameplay abilities thing, we would do we would do the loading and everything, or get the loaded versions and go from there. But ideally, one card should grant one ability. So I might just need to scope it that way. So instead of working with T arrays and stuff like that, I just work with a single. Just so I don't confuse myself. Because I don't see a reason why a card would need more than one gameplay ability. Like there could be gameplay effects that could also just grant gameplay abilities there too. But there should be like one primary ability. So let's look at a card ability set now. CAS, right? So let's look at test card. So yeah, we have ability soft class and then the hard class, right? So what is the flow here? So the flow really is, again, we go into card hand. Or current hand, I should say. And then we get to the point where we call add card to hand. And so we add it, and then essentially we then get to the card template. And then it would be at this point, technically, where I would say load these things, right? So I'll probably need to save it. So I should, I hope. It's like maybe the deck manager should be responsible for this. Like I don't know, like, or have calls to it. So in theory, if I were to make this blueprint callable, and then we go to activate card, and we do give to ability system, right? So let's, for the time being, this, I want to say, yeah, ability to grant is not a thing, right? So because we're iterating over this T array, which is this struct, which is then this information. No wonder. Like, can I load it into that? I suppose is the question. So, well, I need to add that back in. Maybe I could just put this in the CPP here. Scroll all the way up. So I wonder, can I say when I'm loading? Can I say ability dot ability equals loaded class? So type T subclass of gas quotes. So what's wrong here? So it's T. Does that have to be? Oh my god. Can I just say that? I wonder. First and foremost, but yeah, it's T subclass of that, right? That's no good. That's weird. I can't just say loaded class, right? I'm gonna let ChatGPT yell at me on this one. Not sure. Why can't it say? Because it says so matches arguments of type const. You guys course and I'm not sure where it's getting the const from. Unless can I make something a reference or because this can't be const, right? You iterate over which copies each element. So we're getting some fixes here. Let's see what it says here. Reset, soft, happen. Seems Gucci. Let's see. I guess the true we're gonna have the true test will be if I remove the hard reference of this fireball and just keep the soft reference, if it loads correctly, and I can actually activate it. What game have I been playing recently? I've been playing Lies of P, and yesterday I started playing Dragon's Dogma 2. And then on the Steam Deck, I'm playing... I forget the name of it. I think it's like... what is it called? Aeromast? I don't know. I'll find out in a second here. So it's... Man, my memory sucks ass. It has like O in it. I thought. Aethermancer. That's what it's called. Aethermancer. Have you played Dragon's Dogma 1 though? No, I haven't. I don't know. I heard mixed things about that. Should I try it out as well? Maybe I should. But yeah, so card template here, I should just call load abilities to grant, right? Yeah, Aethermancer. It's pretty good. I think it's in early access, and it's like a turn-based monster collector, and you know they have it has a lot of like status effects, and like when turns are happening, like so much shit is happening because your monsters have like all these passives and stuff happening. The first one is much better. Why do you believe the first one's much better? All right, moment of truth. If I activate this, okay, works. Oh wait, no, it doesn't work. Hold on. Oh, I know why. Because as soon as it's granted, it loads it into memory, and then it's put back here. So yeah, that, you know. So I will need to do the same with gameplay effects, but let's first do all the ones that are abilities, right? So evasive fireball. Well, the rest do abilities, right? I mean, I feel like that might have been enough. Let me look at player cards. So size map, yeah, still a lot. So CAS evasive fireball, and I know why. Yeah. So CAS fireball, because the gameplay effect itself then grants the gameplay effect, because it also has the duration stuff involved with it. So yeah, we'll have to do a cleanup next time of the ability set, because one, I don't think it should be a T array of these things. I think there should be only one ability that you grant, and then the array of gameplay effects we'll need to probably soft load, and then I'll just have to figure out the paradigm for because yeah, maybe the gameplay component that I made, like this gas grant gameplay ability override, should maybe also be a soft reference, and I load it when the gameplay effect is granted, I guess, or not granted, but loaded as well. But yeah, I think that those are our next steps. The second game, like the first one, requires DLC to be completed game, but Capcom has no plan for it, I believe. I think I bought the complete edition of Dragon's Dogma, right? They had something. Maybe I wasted money, and like there's some DLC. I don't know if it's the DLC you're referring to, or if this is just cosmetic stuff. I'm not sure. But good to know. So yes, that'll be our next step. So let's close out here. So high level design, we'll add a task. So card ability set takes should take only one T soft class ability parameter. Card ability set soft preferences for gameplay effects. And that's what we could do for next time, I think. And then we should be in a decent shape then to jump into UI stuff, because right now we don't have an actual ability bar, so that, you know, when we're granting these things, you don't really see them. You don't see like an icon. You know, eventually we're gonna have to give like a bunch of like card data for like icons and better stuff for the text and things like that. So we still got a lot of work ahead of us, but I think we're making good progress. So let's see, how many of us are here right now? We have about 6 of us watching from Twitch. DD1 controls are better. There are more spells, more classes, and DLC has more enemy types. Oh, okay. I'll definitely have to check it out then. Thanks, Casper. I appreciate that. I hope I'm for sure gonna have a good time. So let's go ahead. Just did the usual. Let's raid, and let's go to Lana Lux. So for everyone, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to follow me here on Twitch. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube. That'll be all much appreciated. Make sure to check out our Discord. Again, check out our YouTube. Enjoy the rest of your night. Have a good weekend coming up. And see you soon.